What up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Knick the Hick, episode 15. In fact, I am Eric, also known as Big E and also known as the Nick. And with me, as always, is...
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Michael Brevard Decker, a.k.a. CaptainBD, and here on this pod, I am known as the Hick.
So, on today's episode, we're going to continue our Christopher Nolan retrospective with Insomnia. And I think both of us have a lot of things to say about that. But before we begin, we usually talk about what we've been playing. So what have you been playing?
Mafia.
Oh, yeah. How is it?
Did you play the first one?
Yeah, I barely remember it, but I did play it.
I guess I didn't remember it that well either, because everything's super familiar. So it's 20 chapters. Right now I'm in the 11th, so I'm like about halfway through it.
Yeah.
It is Mafia. It is the first game, and like in its entirety. It's mission, the dialogue, the characters. It is that game remade exactly, but it's the graphics and like the engine of Mafia 3.
Okay.
So controls of Mafia 3 and the visuals of Mafia 3, but it's still like this is an open world, but it's a cat box open world. So, but it's like linear. So like what I mean is like when each chapter starts your mission and ends that mission, you know what I mean? Then you start all over again. So you have a mission. He says, hey, go up to the warehouse up north, grab this stuff, go do this, and bring it back. So you go on your icon up there, you grab your shit or whatever for the mission, and then you come back home and say, hey, boss, I did it. And then that ends it. So there isn't really like any discovery, or there's no, you're not exploring at all.
Right.
So that's weird for like, we're so used to open world games like Assassin's Creed, Ghost of Tsushima, and Breath of the Wild, to where it's like exploration's a big part of that, and this isn't at all. So there is a free roam mode, so I'm going to check that out. That's where you go through, get all your little magazines and collectibles and shit like that. So I'll do that once I beat it, but it's good, man. It's hard. It's hard. Yeah. I'm on easy now. I started on classic. So what classic does is it plays with the classic rules of the first game. I forgot that game must have been really hard. So with that, whenever you reload your gun, whatever bullets you had in your gun, they're gone when you reload.
Interesting. Wow. That is difficult.
And when you get hit by people, like you get hit, like it's a cover. It's a shooter cover. Like you have to take cover to fight, like Mafia, And if you get hit a couple times with like a Tommy gun, dude, you're down. And that's on classic mode or even on easy. The cops are way harder than like GTA or Saints Row or anything like that. Like they'll get you for running stoplights. If you touch a car or anything around a cop, they will come and get you. You have speed limiters, and you got to turn those on when you're around cops, because if you're breaking the speed limit, like they'll pull you over for that. And like if you have one cop on you, there's tons of them on you. So like GTA and Saints Row 3, we went over this before, to where we thought that those were kind of getting out of hand, to where like your character's basically like a superhero,
Yeah.
Like unstoppable. And this game is not like that at all. So I've been enjoying it. It's cool. It's a blast from the past. Definitely not to be mistaken for a Gotti like I was talking about, maybe it being a sleeper. Definitely not that good, but it's good. I like it. But that's all I've been playing.
I've watched some of the videos, and it looks good.
It looks good.
It looks really good. Is it worth the $40 though?
Yeah, it's worth $40. I don't think 60, but because it's only like a 15 or 20 hour game.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks really good. So I bought it on PS4, and I have a launch PS4, and it was like struggling. Like it couldn't keep up with it at all. So I traded that back in for the Xbox version. I haven't had any issues with it.
Interesting. So I've been playing Skyrim, but as of last night, I beat the main storyline. Okay,
you beat Alduin?
Yeah.
What did you think? Was that your first time in Sovngrad?
I don't remember. I really can't remember. Like, it was like, it looked familiar, but then again, it didn't at the same time. You know, like I might not have gotten that far into the storyline. I think I got as far as when you fight him the first time.
Yes.
That's I think as far as I got. So, yeah, it probably was the first time.
Like that. I remember the first time doing that and thinking that this was really cool because all of your weapons, either your really powerful weapons that were left over from the heroes of time.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce their names because there's so many, you know, consonants in them. But like Yarzengurg and Gurg, his shield, and you know, blah blah Blazing Fergengurger's sword.
Yeah.
And like, but you go to that Hall of Heroes and you meet those guys. You know,
yeah,
you're there,
yeah.
and that's neat.
Yeah. It was, you know, to be honest, it wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be.
Yeah.
There was one moment and I think I already posted this video that I was fighting like an ice dragon, and that was like super difficult to defeat. And this was like, compared to that, this was nothing. I mean, again, I leveled up. I think I was at level 20 at the end of the storyline. So, but still, it just, I thought it would be a little bit more difficult, but it really wasn't.
Yeah, I'll have to watch your video and see what that fight's like without the mods.
Yeah. Yeah, well, now I'm thinking of continuing this character, but with the mods that you have.
Yeah.
You know, with the chests and stuff, because I was really curious about, and even the graphics, because I would like to see how much better the game looks with all those graphic mods.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was really curious about the chest, but I didn't want to break my promise to myself that I was going to, you know, beat the game with no mods.
And you got much more story out of it than I did. So like when you first fight Alduin, you have to go back and get, you know, the two warring factions to meet at the throat of the, or at the shout
Dragon
guys.
Search. Sure. Yeah.
You got to get them to meet up there. So like, and I'm pretty sure they send you on all types of shit before they agree to come.
It's a lot of just back and forth, like talk to this person and talk to that person and talk to this person. And then when they were doing the negotiations, like I chose speech options that I really didn't want to, but I was just like, wanted to get it over with. So I just hit the first thing I saw and I was like, oh, I kind of didn't want to do that. But
that part, when you're sitting at that table, man, that part's kind of like cringy. It's just like, just shut up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot, very wordy, a lot of dialogue.
So I just, when I did that, I just made sure that I chose one thing for Stormcloaks, one thing for, you know, the Imperials, and then I just tried to make it even.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't choose the ones I should have, but whatever. But I'm actually kind of looking forward to now playing it. I'm probably going to take a break, because I got to edit those videos, and then I'll go back and do the mods. I'm really curious about the mods.
So I've been thinking about either one of two things, either going straight into ESO, because Dre had mentioned that on our podcast, and I was like, yeah, I could see myself, you know, getting farther into that now. Or I'm actually thinking about going all the way back, because they have made the graphics better for Xbox One X, but the original Morrowind.
Okay. That's interesting. But yeah, you know what? Now that we've kind of played the game, we may have to choose another game to play.
I know. We're gonna have to choose another year first.
Yeah. I'll have to come up with that. You know, I forgot to tell you last week, I finished reading Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince.
Okay. So you finished reading it?
Yeah, well, I've got one more book to go. You know, for the whole series.
You know, the first couple, I read the first book. I read Philosopher's Stone. I've read it a couple times, but that's all I've read. I've watched every single movie multiple times. So like the first two really the first two are kind of slow. They're definitely kids, like kids.
Mm-hmm.
Babies now if you look back at them. And once you get it to like definitely Goblet of Fire, but even Prisoner of Azkaban, like that's when I feel like it picks up.
Yeah.
and then it's really solid. It gets better throughout until really the Deathly Hallows. I didn't really care for.
Well, after from Goblet of Fire on, there's a major death in each book. So I think that is significant in that it becomes darker. You know, the stories become darker and they become more for because I mean the whole point is the readers are supposed to grow with Harry Potter. So, you know, they start off at whatever it is, 10 years old, 9, 10 years old. And then by the end of the series, they're supposed to be around that age. So the books get darker as Harry gets older or as the characters get older. But yeah, I don't like to read those books in a row. So I'm kind of reading something in between. Yeah. Also, Half-Blood Prince was like 700 pages.
Yeah, the books also got bigger, I remember.
Yeah, they got a lot
When I was
bigger.
in high school, everybody was reading them, and they just kept getting bigger.
Yeah, they do. They do. But yeah, so I got to take a break and read a smaller book or a book with less pages.
Yeah, I liked Half-Blood, man, because that was like Snape's story.
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, no. At that point, no one really knows whether he was good or not, though, too.
Yeah.
You know, like, because like you said, you watch the movies, like the books were different in that there was a big ambiguous, you know, question of like whether his intentions were good or not. And this, you know, the book, especially the book, really sets it up where you have no idea. Like you really don't know.
Yeah.
You know, because he is the one that kills Dumbledore.
Yes.
Spoiler alert. So.
Yeah, but I mean, Dumbledore's like, just do it. You got to do it.
Yeah, but you don't know that. You don't know that until Deathly Hallows. You know, because at one point, Dumbledore says, "Please," like he begs Snape. He's not begging Snape to not kill him. He's begging Snape to kill him. Mm-hmm. But again, you don't know that until Deathly Hallows. But yeah, it was enjoyable. It took me forever, but it was enjoyable.
Did you watch anything this last week?
Well,
shows besides ours?
Not really. No. The wife and I have been rewatching Tales from the Crypt, which
awesome.
I mentioned in my Fanboy with an Opinion, which comes out on Wednesday. So I mentioned that we've been watching them from the beginning. So,
my dad used to watch those with me when I was a kid. I used to be so scared of them, and now they're like kind of like cheesy.
Some of them are. Well, you know, I mean, I say this in the pod, like these stories were adapted from comic books from the 50s.
Yeah.
So a lot of these stories are kind of like similar themes and yeah, kind of cheesy. But a lot of the effects hold up. Oh, they're hit or miss, depending on what season. Like every other episode's like hit or miss.
I've been watching Lovecraft Country and Raised by Wolves.
Yeah, you mentioned the Raised by Wolves you really enjoyed.
Yeah, Raised by Wolves, awesome. And you have your HBO Max now, right? So
yeah, I do. So I want to watch Watchmen, and then I got to watch that. That's like the first.
I guess that's all HBO.
Yeah. All right, so you ready for our main event?
Yep, the reason we came, right?
Yeah, so the third Christopher Nolan movie, I guess, came out in 2002, Insomnia, starring Al Pacino and Robin Williams. Although it doesn't really have Robin Williams in the movie that much. Yeah. So this is a remake. It was a remake of a Norwegian movie, also known Insomnia, which came out in 1997. And I don't know, like without giving away too much getting into the plot, this is okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
So
it's like if this was the movie he needed to pay some bills or something real quick, you know? Right.
Yeah, I want to get into that later, but yeah, that is sort of yeah. So it starts off with Al Pacino and his partner. His partner is Hap. So Al Pacino plays Will Dormer and his partner Hap. They're both cops, and they're on a seaplane, and they're going to Alaska. And so this is I guess the only major movie that Nolan directed that he did not write.
Yes.
And you could see it.
Yes.
It was right away that he didn't write it. But there are some good parts of the movie that we get a lot of information right in the beginning. And that's because of good writing. So they get to this really small town, Night Mute, Alaska, which is a real town, by the way, in Alaska.
Is it really the halibut?
Yeah. But they
camp of the world?
No, yeah. But they filmed it in Canada. They filmed the movie in Canada, but they named it Night Mute. So it's this really small town, and you find out that there's a 17-year-old girl named Kay who was murdered, and it's a little muddled in this is where the writing isn't so great. So these two cops are from the L.A. PD, and right away that there's a internal affairs investigation into Al Pacino's character.
Keep going.
But they're asked to go to this small town in Alaska as a favor from the chief of police.
Yeah, from that heavy set chief. It's like they went way back.
And because I guess they knew him at one point, even though he says he was born, he was from Night Mute. So it's like, where the fuck did you know him from?
And it was weird that it was like, well, we just wanted your advice. We didn't know you were coming.
Right.
So they didn't even know that him and Hap were coming at all. Well,
right.
It surprised them.
But you get the sense that their captain sent them there to kind of take the heat off of them, while Internal Affairs is investigating Pacino. And you don't really know why. I don't know if maybe it was just my, not really paying attention, but it's not really described exactly what his problem was, what the issue was.
I don't think it is until
later on.
They have dinner, the two of them, Hap and him.
Okay.
Later that night.
So they're, like you said, they're going to help investigate this 17-year-old girl's death. And we already get, Pacino's supposed to be like this great cop, and he's done all these successful cases. And they meet Hilary Swank, who's a part of the Night Mute police department, and she's in awe of Pacino. She really looks up to him. So again, 10 minutes into the movie, not even 10 minutes into the movie, you get all this setup, this past of how great of a cop Pacino is. And they go to see the body, and he already has more insight within his 2 minutes with the body than the whole department had, ever since the girl died. He already knows that the killer knew the girl, and the killer took care of the body after the girl died, washed her hair, did her nails, all this stuff. So we established pretty early on that he's a good cop. We're introduced to other people in the police department, and one of the other cops, played by Nicky Cat, is obviously not happy that Pacino's there. Because I said this to my wife, you're going to get one or two reactions. People are going to look at you in awe, or they're going to look at you as a threat. And that's what Nicky Cat's character, he sees him as a threat. But my favorite part of this movie, so I watched this movie when it originally came out, around that time.
Yes.
And I had only seen it once.
Me too.
This is my second time watching this. But out of the entire movie, one thing I remembered, really, really remembered clearly, is, so they find out that 17-year-old Kay had a boyfriend in the high school. And, it's light out, and Pacino says, okay, I want to go to the high school and talk to him. And, they laugh at him, and then Hilary Swank says, sir, it's, I'm going to screw up the time. It's 10 o'clock. They realize it's actually 9
o'clock. Did you guys go to school?
Yeah.
Did you guys go to school?
And it's 10 o'clock p.m. And that's the one thing I remembered clearly in this movie, because it's a good line.
I like his attitude about it. He's still, because right now he's had that kind of, this is gonna, I'm in charge now type of attitude since he arrived. So even when she tells him that, she's like, it's 10 o'clock at night, sir. And he said, oh, when's it get dark here? She's like, it doesn't. And he said, oh, I knew that. I heard about that. Hap, don't you know about that? Like, then he starts acting like Hap's the dumb one.
Yeah, because he's embarrassed. I mean, he's clearly embarrassed that he didn't know that. But yeah, I mean, so that's the, I guess, the unique part about the movie is that this town in Alaska, it's daytime 24/7. But that's only a seasonal thing that usually happens like once a year or something
Once
like
a
that.
year. I mean, and then, we've seen 30 Days a Night, so they get it both ways.
Yeah, they get it both ways. Yeah. But anyway, I mean, what right off the bat, what do you think of that idea? Like, would you be able to live in an area that was sun 24/7?
I asked my wife what she would rather have, and she said day. And I said, no way. I said, I would much rather have night. Because I think that's the reason. You can't sleep. I mean, you just can't.
Yeah.
Even if you have blacked out curtains and your room is as dark as can be, it's still, you just feel it. You just feel the day.
Yeah, I think you'd have to sleep in a basement.
And it is cool because later on in the movie, he's walking around to do something at nighttime, and it's fucking looks like
there's no one out.
12 o'clock noon.
Yeah, there's no one out. Yeah, my wife and I both agree that we would take night. We would take night.
But no, she 24/7.
No,
my wife
we're not fans of the sun to begin with, so it's I think it was more appealing to us. So they Pacino and Hap get to the hotel, and you mentioned this earlier, they go to eat, and then that's when Hap reveals something to Pacino that IA went to Hap, and now Hap is going to make a deal. And he tries to tell Pacino that it's not going to involve him in any way, and that he's really just saving his ass and trying to think of his family because it's established he has a family. And I said to my wife right away, why would you tell Pacino this now?
Because
why wouldn't you wait?
So Pacino, is like, everything I've done, all the bad people I've put away, like, they're going to get out now because of technicalities, And is it
and he mentions,
is it really told well as far as what Hap's into? Because he's in some shady business too, right? Isn't that what he's talking about getting out of? Like, isn't he taking some cuts or some pays for something? And he's
I thought. See,
it just doesn't explain that well.
No, it's not, because so there's a paper that Hap has. He brings over, like, while they're going to Alaska, he brings a newspaper, and the newspaper has an article that talks about IA looking into the police department or looking them into it. Now, I thought it said something about a shooting, so that's what I thought it was that they were investigating a shooting. But like you said, Pacino tells a different story later on in the movie. So maybe Hap had something to do with the shooting?
Yeah,
and
I think it sounded like he was on a take for somebody, you know what I mean? Like he was getting some money for something.
But that he's going to testify. No, this says, according to Wikipedia, this says that Hap was going to testify against Pacino.
Yes.
In exchange for immunity. To which Pacino responds that many criminals who he helped convict, you already said that. But while he's having that discussion, he mentions a name. We don't know who this criminal is. I want to say Dobbs, but I don't think it was Dobbs.
Yep.
Okay, so that comes up later on in the movie because, like you said, he says, like, what about Dobbs? And you don't want that kind of person on the street. And then Hap is like, well, the IA guy doesn't want that kind of guy on the street either. There's a real, like, hatred for IA, in this movie and in this conversation, and that seems to be like a Hollywood rhetoric, like IA is bad.
Later on, he even throws it at fucking Williams.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: right now where we're at in the movie, and the revelations that have been told about Hap and Pacino. Are we to assume that the only reason that Hap is there is to keep tabs on Pacino?
It's possible because, I mean, that makes sense. It is mentioned that the IA guy wants he wants to be informed of everything that Pacino does while he's in Alaska. So it does make sense that he's there to watch him. So they find Kay's book bag, and then Pacino gets and I guess it's like kind of established that the killer didn't mean for that to be found. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it was in a weird spot. Kind of. And when we get here too, I've got some discrepancies about this.
Okay.
Because I don't know. I'm not gonna. It's too far ahead for me to ask that question right now. But
all right.
Yeah, I think it wasn't meant to be found, and if it was, what was meant to be found at the location that they found it at. But he gets the okay. You go ahead, and he
No, Pacino. No, you
find all the books and shit.
Yeah, he looks at everything in the bag. But then they fill it up with random books, right? And then, because he does this thing where he wants to attract the killer. So I'm a loss of words. How did they do it again? It was like
he said, take out the books, fill it all up with garbage or whatever. Just fill it up with some nonsense. And then we're going to say, hey, there's a book bag that we're looking for. Keep an eye out and let us know about it. And he's like, and put it in everything. Put it in, the...
Right, all the news outlets, yeah. So then they what's called, they case the area where they found the book bag.
In the worst time and visual, just...
Yeah.
Right in the middle of the fog.
Yeah. Terrible, dense fog. I mean, it's actually kind of interesting how they replicated that, because it doesn't, they did a good job of making it look realistic, that it wasn't just like Hollywood magic, like a fog machine, it looked like real fog.
Yeah, it does. I don't know if maybe they just, because of where they were, maybe in Canada, then that valley, maybe they just waited till a morning that it was just foggy enough.
Right. But that, oh my God, that must have been a pain in the ass to do that. Wait around for that perfect morning. So eventually the killer does show himself, and one of the Alaskan cops accidentally alerts the killer when Pacino goes to grab a bullhorn, and he hits the button, and then it goes off, and then the guy runs. He runs into a shack, and then of course it turns out he's got like a secret exit in the shack, and they go following. And so this is interesting. So Pacino's with the rookie cop, or we don't know if he's a rookie, but he's with the Alaskan cop, and he thinks he sees somebody in the fog, and so he, kind of says, hey, whatever, cops, whatever. And then the figure shoots at them and shoots the Alaskan cop. So Pacino goes after him, and after a few seconds, he thinks he sees somebody else, and instead of saying something, because that didn't really work out the last time, he just shoots.
He just shoots him.
And then, of course, he goes over, and he realizes it's his partner, Hap. And Hap is very like, did you just try to kill me?
He's like, hey, dude, did you do that on purpose?
And Pacino's trying so hard to be like, no, I didn't. And of course, it doesn't matter because Hap just starts to die. Also, around this time, Pacino finds a 38 pistol that I guess he assumes the suspect dropped. So now, Pacino, the one thing I did like about this movie is the morality question, the moral question that constantly comes up with Pacino. And let's be honest, like Kay's murder doesn't really matter in this movie. Once this happens, everything is just about that. It's about like, what does Pacino do, and the repercussions of what he does and why he does it. So yeah, he makes it seem like the killer was the one who shot Hap.
So at this point, why? Why lie about it? You got this fog that's crazy. You know what I mean? You got this crazy ass fog. Everybody saw that there was another person there. It's not like he was lying about the killer being there. Everybody else did see him, and the killer left his gun there. So he could say that guy, you know, I saw somebody with a gun. I turned around, I accidentally shot him instead. Like, I'm sorry, we couldn't see shit. You know?
Well, you know, yeah. You know, him shooting the second time without saying anything, I kind of understand why he did that. You know, because that situation didn't work out the first time. But I think it's because IA is breathing down his neck. They're not going to believe him, even though he has all these other cops that could say, hey, it was like real thick as shit and couldn't see anything. They may not believe that.
Yeah.
You know, they just may believe that these guys are covering for Pacino, especially if they see him as like a god or whatever. And then what Pacino says at the end kind of ties into that, because I think it's this idea of like Pacino was a good cop. He did one bad thing. So, you know, just continue that. You know what I mean? Like once you pass that threshold, then it's easier to do it again.
Yeah.
Yes? I mean, that's just my interpretation. I don't even know if I'd be right about that.
Which we see coming up. He does. He does do it again.
Yeah. But yeah. So, right. I mean, it's a slippery slope. Like, isn't that the point? If you do something bad that you've never done before for the first time, and then it just gets easier and easier to do that. Like,
yeah,
that's how Hollywood is. Well,
that does come full circle at the end. Yeah.
I mean, that's Hollywood has taught us that you don't murder, because like once you murder, you can't stop murdering. You know, it becomes this thing that you gotta constantly keep doing. So it's like that, I guess. But anyway, so he gets he starts trying to pin it on the killer, who he doesn't even know their identity yet. He knows internal affairs will never believe. You know, I said that. So Hilary Swank gets put in charge of the shooting investigation. Now, what do you think of that? Like, why her?
Because she's the best cop there.
You think that's why?
And she knows the most about him. I mean, she's the best cop, and she said, I've read all of your reports. I know all about you. I really look up to you, you know?
I thought it was a sexist thing because because it's mentioned that although she is a detective, she's not really a lead detective.
Yeah.
The question came up. I think Al Pacino says to the captain, like, she's good, you know, she's a good kid, and he says she's very not eager, but she loves the job. And I think it was brought, you know, the captain tells her, you're in charge of the shooting investigation. And she's like, why? I'm a part of this. And I think it's just this idea of like, maybe they do respect her, but not enough to lead an investigation, you know? And because the shooting investigation is a lot of paperwork and just a lot of like looking at the scene, trying to recreate the scene. They probably didn't even expect her to find anything, you know? They probably thought it was a open and shut case. Yeah.
She did. She thought that because she's trying to get back to the murder
into the
investigation as quickly as possible.
Yeah. So at the end of it, you know, Pacino is very shook up about it. And he is obviously, you know, clearly visually upset that he just accidentally killed his friend and his partner. And he then has to...
Barfs in a trash can.
Yeah, barfs in a trash can. He has to call the guy's Hap's wife and tell him that Hap is dead. And of course the wife is like, you get the bastard.
Yeah, get him.
You get him. And so...
He's a hooey. I'll get a hooey.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot to tell you this part. So, you know, Pacino's known for his hoo-ha and his, what's it called? Dunkachino.
Mannerisms.
His Dunkachino. So I kept saying, throughout the whole movie we're watching it, every once in a while I kept saying hoo-ha.
Yeah, hoo-ha.
Hoo-ha. And I said, like, you know, in church you say amen a lot, but in the church of Pacino you say hoo-ha instead. You know, so it was just like, hoo-ah. But I think I stopped doing that after a while because it's just watching this But by the way, it's a 2-hour movie.
Yeah, hour 58. I thought it was way too long, and it's really
Way too long.
until you meet Williams, this fucker drags.
Yeah, because again, it has like at this point, it has nothing to do with the murder. You know, they're investigating the murder up to this point. They interviewed the boyfriend who was a piece of shit, and he's now sleeping with Kay's best friend, or was even before Kay died. But now it switches to Pacino trying to pin this murder on, pin it on the killer. He has the gun, which he has not told. I don't think he told anyone he had.
No, he did not.
He shoots the gun into a dead dog which he saw when he was puking his guts out. And that's the scene you were talking about before. It's like he goes to this alley and there's no one outside.
Well,
like
that's
no
what I'm saying, dude. It is nighttime when he does all of this. And
and it's creepy.
It
it's
is
really
2 o'clock, fucking sun up afternoon.
Blaring. And everyone seems to be used to this in this town, but he doesn't. So with his guilt of killing Hap on top of it, he's having insomnia because, like you said, the sun is just blaring into the. But the first night they're there, he gets I guess he gets sleep.
Yeah.
Because they get there at night, but then the next morning they go to school to interview the boyfriend, and it's like he didn't say anything about not being able to get any sleep. You think that just would have started as soon as it got there? But even my wife made the point that if you were tired enough, you'd fall asleep.
You do. You do.
There are some moments though where it seems like he does kind of go in and out of consciousness. So maybe he gets like a little 5-minute nap.
I've had insomnia here and there before, and it's weird because you don't realize that you fell asleep, but you could be like watching a movie, right? And say the movie all of a sudden just fast forwards 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's how you know, like, oh shit, I just slept.
Yeah. I've been exhausted to the point where I've passed out in mid-sentence.
Yeah.
And
I mean like insomnia like that, just being exhausted, not an actual.
Yeah. And I passed out in mid-sentence and then immediately started dreaming and then just snapped out. And I literally was dreaming for like 2 minutes and just slept for 2 minutes and then just woke right up, freaked my wife out. But yeah, I mean, like I said, you probably get like just a few minutes of sleep. So he ends up having, what's it called? The Alaskan cop got shot and they did ballistics on that. Well, they couldn't find the bullet because it went through him. So he wanted to try to find the casing. He does find the casing. Doesn't he find it?
He doesn't.
No. But he ends up, oh, that's right. He goes to Hap's body and he switches the casing from the 38 to his, the 9mm, which is from his, but by the way, that's another thing is it's his backup gun. It's his backup gun that apparently nobody really knew about except for Pacino until later on in the movie. So he's really trying hard to like get it off of him. And it just really makes him look bad. Makes him look really bad.
Yeah, shooting the dog, digging the bullet out to swap out with the autopsy bullet. It's pretty, like he's going above and beyond.
Yeah, yeah. Then he gets an anonymous phone call, which ends up being from the killer. And the killer tells Pacino that he saw everything. And he saw Pacino actually shoot his partner. And so the cops are, he figures this stuff out before the cops do. But of course, he can't really say anything because he's got to now. It's not really implied what he's going to do once he finds the killer, but obviously it's going to be, I don't know. What would he, like, question to you. Let's say that the cops didn't know who the killer was. Pacino did. What do you think Pacino would have done?
Killed him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is kind of implied, sort of implied. that's what he was going to have to do.
Loose strings, man.
Yeah, but he ends up finding out that the killer was someone Kay knew, and he was a writer of some books that Kay was reading. And, cut to him finding out where the guy lives, and of course it turns out to be Robin Williams.
One thing, though, when they're at the funeral and he sees Kate's best friend now with her.
Oh, yeah.
And, dude, this part I thought was super creepy.
Yes.
But when he goes up to her and he's like, hey, aren't you such and such best friend? Aren't you Kay's best friend? She's like, yeah. And he's like, why don't you come home and... Or no. I'm sorry. He walks up on him and the boyfriend is like, are you coming or not? I'm ready to go. And Pacino's like, well, why don't you go ahead and ride with me? Ride with me instead.
Yeah.
And then she gets in the car with him, and it's incredibly awkward and creepy, this whole scene.
Yep.
Because Pacino, even in, 2002? Was this right? Was this movie 2002?
Yep.
Even then, Pacino was old as shit.
Old, yeah.
And this girl's 17.
Yeah.
And she's lifting up her skirt and showing off her legs and being super flirty. And,
yeah.
Then Pacino says, I don't want any of that. And let's play a game of chicken. I'm going to scare the shit out of you. But, yeah, he ends up getting all that info out of her as far as Brody, and Brody being this writer that those were all the books in that backpack that, Kay was reading. And they find out that his name was what?
Walter Fish?
Yeah, Walter. But he went by Brody.
Yeah.
So there you go. So, yeah, he's that.
Yeah. It is weird.
It was creepy. That was a creepy scene.
Yeah. Well, Insomnia is already starting to seep into him, and he's already starting to slowly lose it because, again, at this point, he's doing his own investigation. That he's not telling the cops any of this stuff. Like when he finds out he was a writer or any of this stuff, he doesn't even mention that he interviewed the friend until later, like way later, I think. And there's procedure for that sort of thing. I'm pretty sure a man, especially at his age, is not allowed to interview a young girl without someone's presence. And it's the same thing when he interviews the boyfriend, because the boyfriend's like 17 as well. It's like pretty sure you're not supposed to be alone with an underage kid.
And that scene was all bullshit. No teenager acts like that when cops come talk to you at school.
Well, because he thinks he's a badass. That's the thing. I mean, yeah. I mean, I agree with you. It's just it's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, he plays chicken with her in the car, and I think. The reason why he does it is because he wants to rattle her, because these kids, they think they're badasses and they think like untouchable and tough. And then just playing a little chicken, just, they fall apart. I wanted to see the ride back though. What was that ride like?
Probably just left her ass there.
Yeah. But yeah, so then when we find out it's Robin Williams. And what did you think of Robin Williams in this?
Creepy.
Yeah, he was creepy. Yeah.
So this 1 hour photo also came out this year. So this was like the year of him playing creepy killer.
Yeah. Well, actually, in 1 hour photo, I don't think he kills anyone. He's just a disturbing really stalker. He's but I thought he was better than that.
I do too.
I think he was in this.
I thought 1 hour photo was better than this movie as a whole.
And he had played creepy people like that before, creepy people like this before, but only on television and stuff. So, but yeah, I think 1 hour photo, he did a better job. But
so, what did you think about Robin Williams in this movie? I thought he was.
I thought he was good. He was a good actor. But I just feel like, again, he's played creeper better.
Yeah.
And his character was weird because, eventually we find out he did kill Kay, but it was an accident, which he calls an accident. But it just seems like he's, you know, I inaccurately told my wife that he was a serial killer, but he's not a serial killer. But he acts like a serial killer.
But yeah.
So I think that's where the misinformation in my head was that, you know, he seems like he's going to do this again.
Then it always seemed like Walter had too much information.
Yes, I was thinking that a few minutes ago when he said, "I saw you kill your partner."
And I know your partner's an IA. Like, how the fuck do you know my partner's an IA?
Yeah, how the fuck did you know that? So it seemed like he knew a lot. Yeah, Pacino finds where he lives in a nearby village, breaks into his home, tries to set him up with the gun by putting it into an event, which apparently is very easy to open up.
You just need a knife.
Yeah, it's so easy. But again, kind of like what you said, Finch, Walter is just always one step ahead of Pacino because he contacts him. You know, here's one thing I find interesting. Williams is always running. There's like 3 different chase scenes in this movie. There's one in the fog, and then there's one once Williams comes home while Pacino is in the apartment. He chases him for a while, and then there's another chase later on at the end. It's like, damn, there's so much chasing.
The second chase, though, like, has Williams been running on fucking logs his whole life?
Yeah, he was light as a feather, man, on that.
He was really good at it.
Yeah,
like human Frogger.
Yeah, I thought it was Frogger. I said that to my wife. I was like, this is Frogger. And then at one point I thought, well, maybe he's always lived around logging. I don't know. But then he mentions that he didn't, because that's one of the things he tries to connect with Pacino is with the insomnia. Because he said, oh, that happened to me too when I first came up here. Like I couldn't sleep for, what was it, 6 days or something like that? 5 or 6 days. So he obviously didn't live there his whole life. So I don't know. I don't. He moved like a ninja. Like he really did.
I mean, when Pacino fell down and he finally found that ladder, and that's terrifying. Getting stuck under that because you can't move that shit. You know what I mean? There's no way.
No.
Once they hit each other, like there was one time where he put his head up and then he put his head back down, and 2 logs just rammed each other.
Yeah.
Kind of popped his head like a pimple.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, when he gets up off of that ladder and has a look at Williams, like Williams is like a fucking couple football fields damn near ahead of him. Like really he is gone.
Yeah. But then after that, he goes back to the hotel, I guess. I mean, it's interesting the scenes we don't see. You know, him going back to the hotel soaked from head to toe. Where's the explanation? What the hell happened to you?
And then what's crazy, so you're talking about Williams runs every single time he talks to him, but after every time he gives him a call.
Yeah. So he calls him again. Yeah, because I mean, you know, you get this idea of like he's a creepy stalker or he's just a creepy guy, and now he's got his fangs into. He killed his the last person I guess he was obsessed with. So he calls Pacino and. You know, they arrange a meeting, and Pacino, like, Williams really thinks at this point that they're, like, on the same level.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, Williams is like, oh, I'll help you out, you help me out, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Pacino is still trying to pin it on him. And then, you know, because they have this conversation on the ferry, and Pacino is trying to get out of him where Kay's dress is and where Kay's something else, right? It was something else. Kay's dress, and he kept saying that it was like, yeah, necklace. And because, you know, Pacino knows that Williams still has that stuff. And that's why he wanted more evidence to pin on Williams. I guess it wouldn't be pinning, but he wanted more evidence. Because that's the thing. I mean, even if the cops were already kind of looking into Williams, but there's no evidence that Williams killed Kay. So even if you think it's him, you had no evidence. So that's why he's trying to get the dress. So we have this long conversation, and then at the end of it, Williams leaves the ferry.
I like that. I like that dialogue though on the boat when Williams is telling him, "Well, I'm different. I'm not like all your other murderers and serial killers that you've caught. I'm not a murderer. Like, this was an accident. And I like Pacino talking about, like, you're not any different than any of them. He says, he said, you're my fucking job. Like, you're nothing more than my job. I deal with you. Like, you're not special to me. I deal with you every single day.
Yeah. Well, we did some insight into Williams' character, that Williams wanted to be a cop and he couldn't be a cop. And I think there's supposed to be an explanation of why he knows things, maybe because he just has done so much research. Because he writes like those kinds of novels, I guess, detective mystery novels. And so he's done so much research into police procedure that like he knows everything or whatever. I don't know. But so he calls again. So at the end, I thought this was interesting. He leaves the ferry, Williams, and then he turns around and shows that he had a tape recorder the whole time, recorded the conversation. So now,
the whole time watching this, I'm thinking in my head, like, why doesn't Pacino have a voice recorder?
Yeah, I thought that too.
Pacino has a voice recorder right now. This guy just admitted to the murder. Like, that would be great. And whatever he fucking talks about, I know it about your partner or whatever, he can edit that shit out,
Yeah.
And then here we go. Lo and behold, fucking Williams is the one with the recorder.
Yeah. Yep. So then he calls him again, and he says that Kay's death was an accident, and he beat her to death in a fit of rage after she rejected his sexual advances. Now, I can't remember when we get this part, but Williams does explain that, she wanted to be a writer. Oh, so they find Williams, the cops, but that they bring him in as a witness, not really, and then they have to do this whole what's it called? Interrogation. Not really interrogation, but yeah, with Pacino there. And it's like a tense scene. It is a tense scene because their real relationship, but no one else outside of the two of them. No. But we find out that Kay was a fan of his books, reached out to him. He tried to be a mentor. And then, later on, we find out that she was upset about what was going on with her boyfriend. She contacts Williams, and, Williams keeps saying, oh, well, we were friends. It's like, dude, you're like 50 years old. It's inappropriate.
Buying her fucking designer dresses and jewelry.
Right. Yeah, that was the thing, is he buys her a necklace, and it's like, I said this to my wife, if you want to be a mentor, you buy her, a journal or some pens, or books. Like, you don't get her designer clothes. But then, so he tried to make it pass, and she responded by laughing. And, obviously this is a guy who's just, I don't know what kind of word you want to use for him, but he's not a ladies' man.
No.
And so it freaked him out, and then he beat her to death. But anyway, the cops don't think that. And then he starts feeding lies to the cops into that the boyfriend might have done it. And then the boyfriend's like a dumb kid. Like, he's going to wash her hair after he kills her. He's going to clip her nails. Like, he's not going to give a shit after that. So, but this is the problem. So Williams' testimony pins it on the boyfriend, who then the cops then basically arrest. I mean, not basically, they do arrest him. Because then Williams had told Pacino in one of their conversations prior to the interview, I think, he found the gun that Pacino put in his apartment.
He said that during the interrogation. He said,
yes.
Well, do you know where he put the gun? I think he put it in a heating vent. And then, like, looked up over
which is what Pacino did, right. So now, Williams did the same thing, but to the boyfriend. So now Pacino tries to go ahead and tries to get the gun out of the boyfriend's house, which he cannot find.
That's kind of a smart scene right there, where he's in the police office because he's trying to leave before them.
Yes.
So the only way for him to really do that is to get kicked out of the meeting, basically.
Yes.
So he starts really hitting Williams hard with, oh, you wanted her. You wanted to fuck her. You wanted to, and he makes himself look so obscene that the other officers kick him out of the interrogation.
Yes. Yeah, and that was good. I thought that was good. I thought that was smart. I mentioned that to my wife. I was like, that was pretty good. But he gets ahead. He can't find the gun because he goes and looks in the heating vent. And apparently every heating vent in Alaska is very easy to open with a Swiss Army knife. But he can't find it. And then the cops get there and he has to hide. That, again, another tense scene.
Another tense scene.
Of him hiding in the bathroom because, the cops come with a warrant. And they find the gun in his apartment, in the kid's apartment, or whatever it is. It's like above a garage or some bullshit.
Or some shit, I don't know.
And it was in, what was it in? Like grease?
Motor oil.
Motor oil. Which is a weird place to hide a gun. But, so yeah, they arrest the kid, and it's like, all right. But he, throughout the movie, Pacino is dealing with this moral problem, along with not being able to sleep. And it's just been days, without a good night's sleep. And on top of that, Hilary Swank is finding out more and more about the shooting and that it's not as cut and dry as it may have looked.
So this part of the movie kills me, okay? Because it is fucking mid-sun in the sky all day and night in this fucking town, right? Like, it is light outside all the time.
Yeah.
He finds that 9mm shell so fucking easily.
Yeah.
So, Pacino knows where he shot the guy at. You know that approximately what area it was. There's nothing that he could have went back and just looked for it. You know what I mean? Try to find. I mean, it was right out in the middle of. It didn't blend in with anything. Luckily, fucking shell casings look nothing like rocks because she found it very quickly.
Very quickly, yeah. Well, there's one interesting thing I didn't mention was that she had written her report and she needed Pacino to sign it. And she was obviously eager to get back to the murder case. And there's a common thing that comes up between the two of them in a piece of dialogue where Pacino says, Swank is kind of annoyed that she doesn't get to lead the murder investigation, and she has to deal with a lot of smaller crimes. And Pacino says it's the little things, right? It's the little things that go on to bigger things, whatever the fucking line is. I just remember the first part. But anyway, she's done with the report and she gets him to sign it, and he says, like,
you know what?
Are you
go ahead.
Yeah. Are you happy with it? Like, yeah, maybe you should go over it again. And that's the fucking nail in his fucking coffin. If he had just signed the goddamn thing, she wouldn't have continued to research and she wouldn't have found the 9mm shell. So it's all his fault. Everything is his fault. Everything is Pacino's fault. Hoo-ha. So she realizes that it conflicts with the bullet type that they found in Hap's body. She reads her own case study. So she mentioned this earlier in the movie that she had done like a thesis basically on one of Pacino's cases. And in the thesis she wrote that Pacino would keep a 9mm behind him, was a reserve gun or a second gun, backup gun. So now she realizes that he's the one that shot his fucking partner. The other cops celebrate. Mm-hmm. And here's one thing about Pacino. So up until this point, I never thought he looked tired.
Yeah.
He acted tired. He acted tired, and I thought he acted that well, but no makeup, no bags under his eyes, no discoloration, none of that. And I just thought, like, why? Why couldn't they just put a little? I wonder if that was something he didn't want. Maybe. Pacino didn't want makeup.
Maybe because I'm telling you, Nolan's big on shit like that.
Yeah, Nolan's big on that, and it just seems like that extra detail they could have added. Mm. But it up into the scene, he still doesn't look tired, but he's doing a damn good job of acting. Yeah. He's sitting there around, all the other cops are drinking, and he's just like about to fall off his seat.
Yeah, out of it.
Yeah, his face is about to hit the table. his whole face is just really like stretched out. His mouth is open, flies are going in. No, I mean,
And what's crazy is everybody around him knows exactly what's going on.
Yes.
And they just don't even, blah, blah, blah.
They're making fun of him. They're like, you need some sleep.
Like, when's the last time you got sleep? And he lies. He always lies throughout this movie. I got sleep.
Yeah, but they know the truth. They know it's not true. So he, I mean, that was one problem I had is like, no makeup. Like, he doesn't look tired. He doesn't. He's just acting it. I mean, you would look exhausted.
Yeah, you'd have bags.
At that point.
Sure.
Yeah,
Definitely.
he would have bags.
Red eyes.
Yeah, his eyes would probably be red. So after the bar, she makes a comment. What does she say? She says,
well, she wants to see it done.
Yes. No, she hugs him,
yep.
Because he's supposed to leave because it's all done pretty much. It's a closed case, and she goes to hug him, and she feels that he's got that 9mm in his behind him.
Yeah, and she squeezes the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Grip on
it. What else? Where am I? But she tells the group, she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go somewhere." She's supposed to go look at something, or she's supposed to go file her report.
Isn't she meeting him? Isn't she meeting Walter for some other?
That's right. That's it. So Walter said that he had some letters.
Yep. Letters. So here's my question, my $1 million question that I was wanting to ask you about the book bag earlier.
Okay.
So that book bag earlier is around a cabin, right?
Yeah.
Supposedly his cabin, right?
I don't know if it was a cabin. It was like some sort of shack. Like,
but
I don't know.
This place is his cabin, and that's not the same place as that one.
No.
So like, does he have two cabins? Is that not his property at all?
I don't know if that was a cabin so much as just like in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And that's where they found, because they found the body in like a trash pile, like right?
Yeah, like a dump.
A dump. And then they found the bag in the middle of this, like, not really a rock quarry, but it was almost like they kept referring to it as a beach.
Yeah.
And I was like, that shit don't look like no beach. I didn't see no sand. It was just a lot of rocks and maybe some water, not really a river, but like streams or creeks and stuff. So I don't think it was I think it was just a random cabin. It didn't really explain what it was, or a shack, like not even a cabin because it was so small.
So I mean, like, if that wasn't his cabin, then
what the fuck was
definitely meant to dump that book bag there.
Yeah.
So then, why did he give a fuck about the cops wanting the book bag?
Yeah, I know. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, I don't know if, like I said before, I don't know if I wasn't paying attention or it's just they didn't explain it well enough.
Maybe it's just that serial killer shit to where like they like to be involved in the case itself. Maybe,
yeah. So that's right. She's gonna go and get some letters that allegedly Tay had written, and she meets him at his cabin, and then I guess Pacino figures out that
she was going there.
Yeah, that she was going there, and that oh, that's right. Pacino has, so he still can't fucking sleep. And he has that conversation with the hotel owner. And that's when he tells a story about a pedophile.
Yeah.
And that he fabricated evidence to convict the pedophile because the pedophile was going to get away with it. And he's unloading on this poor hotel owner who like seems to deal with this story, a very fucked up graphic story, seems to deal with the story pretty well. And she makes a comment that most of the people in this town are either born here or were running away from something. And it's like, damn, lady, what the fuck are you running away from? When that story doesn't even
I've seen some
flinch.
things.
Yeah, it just doesn't even make her flinch. But so, we find out that that's the whole point of the IA investigation, is that he fabricated evidence to get a pedophile convicted. And that's the name he mentioned earlier, because it's like, you don't want that guy out because of all the things that he's done. So that was a weird scene, though. It was just
Yeah.
like, I mean, telling Hilary Swank probably would have fit more than this just poor random woman we've seen
then
in a few scenes.
And then they sleep together. And I don't mean like have sex, like they actually just sleep together.
Yeah, she wakes up and it's in like, why did you sleep in his room?
like you didn't have sex. You guys you have all of your clothes on. You guys just fell asleep together. Like, did you just want to make sure he got some sleep, or what the hell was that about?
I wonder if that was to show you that the people in the town can't sleep with the sun, because she's sleeping and the sun's like beating right on her face, and it doesn't bother her. But so anyway, Pacino then goes to Walter's cabin, and because he finds Kay's letters in Walter's apartment and realizes that Walter is going to kill Hilary Swank. So he goes to the lake house. Now, this doesn't make sense to me either. Not why, but how is he going to get away with killing Hilary Swank?
Yeah, I don't know. I know why he's going to do it, but I don't know how he can get away with cop killing, especially if people know where she's going.
Right. She told a whole group of other cops where she was going. Because Williams mentions that. He tells Pacino, go back to L.A., I got this. I'll deal with this. But anyway, Pacino gets there. Oh, he
about dies.
Yeah, he hits. What's it called? Williams hits Hilary Swank just as Pacino gets there. She gets unconscious. Let's see. He's too fucked up from the lack of sleep to fight off Williams. She revives, saves Pacino while Williams escapes, and then she puts the gun on him because she's like, you fucking killed your fucking partner.
Yeah.
And then he's got she's like,
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. She's like, did you kill him? And he's like, I don't know anymore.
I don't know. I'm so tired and it was fucking foggy. I don't know.
I think your dog loves the impression. So I guess she reluctantly gives him a gun then. And then they go shooting at Williams gets a shotgun. A rifle or a shotgun. It's a
shotgun. He has shells, but it's like
shotgun.
It's like it must be a really small fucking shotgun, like a 410 or something like that, because
he's so far.
Yeah, he's far away and it's got range, but when they're up close, it doesn't do shit really.
Pacino sees a fucking trap door, like all these fucking cabins and shacks have fucking trap doors.
Yeah.
And it's like he remembers I'm just assuming he remembers what Williams did in the beginning of the movie, and then he's like, oh, I should do the same thing. Hoo-ha. And then he gets down there and he surprises Williams. And
you won't hear me coming at all.
No. Anyway, long story short, Robin Williams dies. Does he die?
I don't know.
We see him sink into the water, but probably.
So how deep was that water? We saw Pacino walking through it just fine.
Good point. Yeah, that's a good point. It changed depth. And then, of course, Pacino was shot.
We saw Pacino. Yeah, we saw Pacino walking through it, just wading through. It was like knee deep. It wasn't even that deep for him.
No, it wasn't that deep. I was actually surprised because I thought he was going to really sink into the water, and it was like up to his shins, up to his knees, and it was like, oh, okay. But then he gets shot. He kills Walter. Hilary Swank comes in, and he's dying. And comforts him by affirming that, she's got the 9mm. She's about to throw it away, and he tells her don't.
Yeah.
And because he knows that he's going to die anyway. But then, what's he say to her? He says, "Finally going to get some sleep."
Yeah, I'm finally going to get some sleep. Or like once you don't ever lose your light or some shit,
Yeah, because that's what he felt he did. Yeah.
Oh shit.
And then he says one last hoo-ha, and then he closes his eyes and he dies.
He said, "Look, but don't touch. Touch, but don't taste."
So let's deal with. Let's deal with the elephant in the room. You had said this to me, and you made a good point that his performance was downgraded, I guess.
It was. He wasn't
compared to his other movies.
He wasn't over the top.
I mean, I've said this before. After a certain point in his career, but just about every movie, he's like yelling and screaming. Yeah, and this movie he didn't do it. And I said to you, and I stand by this. I believe that was probably Christopher Nolan's doing. Making sure that he reined him in. Because that's what a good director's supposed to do. You're supposed to rein in the performances. And I think a lot of those directors probably just let Pacino do what Pacino's good at and, let loose.
So I think
all over the place.
I think this is a really cool thing about Nolan is that this is his third movie, his first big movie,
Yes.
And you've got two all-star veteran actors that you got to do.
Yes.
And keep them in check. You know what I mean? Like these are no Guy Pearce, Joe Pats.
Yeah.
This is fucking Pacino and Robin Williams.
Right. Well, here's my theory about that I briefly said before. I hinted at before. So, like you said, this is his third movie. I know he did The Following, but I don't really. That's like super independent. I almost feel like Memento's his real first movie. But with that aside, Following and Memento, they were clearly his vision.
His vision.
Right?
Yeah.
These were movies that he made, he wrote, he directed, and they kind of follow the same path of a lot of his other movies. With the whole like time being broken up and that sort of thing.
Big reveals.
This was his first, and other than the Batman movies, Insomnia is his first straightforward movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that he does Memento the way he wants to, and then Hollywood comes and said, "Here's a bunch of money. The budget was $46 million, not over the top, but." You get Pacino, you get Williams, and even Hilary Swank was kind of up and coming at that point. But you have to make a script that we want you to make.
Yep.
And lack of a better word, this is his sellout movie.
It is a sellout movie. I think this is one that he wanted those dollar bills.
Yeah. And he wanted to make a name for himself. Memento, his second movie, gets nominated for Best Screenplay. So he does this, and I wonder if this was a lesson for him. Don't do a movie that you didn't write.
I think it is exactly, because this is kind of the only time that he's done this his entire career.
Yes. He's made, there were some shorts that he did, but like a major big budget, major full-length movie. Full-length movie, he co-wrote everything else. But even the Batman movies are done well. They're not like...
Those are stories that we know, but he took it so dark and so different,
Yeah, because the point is he compromised when making this movie. He didn't compromise when he did the Batman movies.
No.
He filmed those movies in IMAX because he wanted to, and it shows. So this is his compromise movie. This is the movie where it's like, well, this will get my foot in the Hollywood door. And it just, to me, a lot of it was boring.
Yeah, the first half of the movie, man, really, really drags. It really drags. Where do you think you put it?
Oh, it's on the bottom. It's above Following, but it is on the bottom.
See, that's where my issue is. Obviously, Memento's gonna stay at the top for me for a long time, at least until this next movie that's coming up.
Correct.
And then it might move, but
correct.
For me, I was gonna say Following was on the bottom. Just because no matter what, I'm never going to watch Following again.
Agreed.
I'm never going to watch it again. And it's only because of production value. That's it.
Right.
Because that is an indie movie.
Yeah.
Sure. But it has some really cool ideas in it. And it is, I think, this is a better movie with better actors for sure. Much better for production value. I mean, it's the difference of a in the basement indie movie to a professional fucking movie.
Yes.
But I think I like Following better just because it was more
Okay.
interesting. It was more interesting.
I can see that. Yeah, I could definitely see that.
But with that being said, I will never watch The Following ever again. I don't plan on ever watching this movie ever again either.
No.
But if
No.
it's on, I walk into a room of people and it's on, I can be like, yeah, whatever, hey, hoo-ha, I can have a little fun with it.
Yeah.
But like, if I walk into a room of people and The Following's on, like, I'm not gonna watch it. I'm gonna go fucking get on my phone or do something,
Yeah. Go watch a better Nolan movie.
Yeah.
I've not seen Interstellar, but I don't think anything is Insomnia. So I think it's going to stay, Following, then Insomnia, definitely. I was looking forward to rewatching this because, like I said, I had only seen it once. But man, it really is disappointing. Very disappointing.
Slow.
Very, very slow. But like you said, the next movie is The Prestige, because we are skipping the Batman movies. He made The Prestige in between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. That's just crazy, because after this, it's just going to be hit after hit after hit after hit. I think in the Interstellar is kind of, people are divided. But let's see, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say about the movie. I did like the concept. I did like the moral question. I did like the Insomnia. You had said that you wanted to see the original.
Yeah, so the original has, is it Stellan Skarsgård?
Yeah, the father, yeah.
Yep, Papa Skarsgård?
Yeah,
I do. Well, the only reason, is it in English or is it dubbed or something at least?
It's subtitled.
Okay. But I guess it's a lot darker, like a whole lot darker.
Yeah. I saw it. I saw it a long time ago. I remember liking it better. But I also saw it first, so maybe that had something to do with it. But I do remember it being a better movie. All right. So, I did want to mention one thing. So the Knick and the Hick are going to change our schedule, where we're going to be a bi-weekly show. So we're taking next week off, and then we'll be back the week following. So just a heads up on that. But other than that, like I said, the next movie is going to be The Prestige, which I'm excited about. I'm sure you are too.
Very exciting. I think, dude, I love that movie.
Yeah, me too.
There's a few of these coming up that are really good.
Yeah.
Inception, I know I've hated on it. I don't hate Inception. I just don't think it's as clever as everybody makes it out to be. Okay, it is super clever. I just don't think that makes a good movie.
You think it's too clever for its own good?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so we're doing, and then we're also got to talk about what year. We're going to talk about what year.
Got to think about that. So what we've done 2007 and 2011.
Correct.
Right now. Yeah, there's some good years out there.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that. Good. All right, but with that said, please like, comment, and subscribe. Join our Facebook group. What else? Our Discord, Gamers Network. Everything will be in the comments and linked in the comments. Yeah, any last final words?
Nope, guys. Thanks for checking in with us, and we will see you in a week in 2 weeks.
Yes, 2 weeks. So I am Eric. I'm the Nick, and as always, you are.
I am Michael Brevard Decker, aka the Hick. Good night, guys.
Night.